Nuestra presentación especial comenzará en breve.
Hello and welcome. I did not watch or read Demon Slayer until this week. In my defense, it started airing the season next to the one Dororo aired in, and the thing that went through my head was Dororo was a great yokai and historical Japan anime, so I'd rather savor it and wait a bit before watching the same thing. But now that I watched season 1 of Demon Slayer, I realized it's not the same thing. It's demons they are slaying, not yokai. I figured. I also had an impression that demons would look like this, but instead they look like this, and this. They come at night and eat people. I mean, that's just Bazghughs to me. Urban legend. So if anyone ever tried telling me Bazghughs Slayer, I would have watched it ages ago. Take notes, marketing department. I also thought that the main character is a child coming of age, and oh me.
You were wrong.
Tanjiro was born mature, from the womb directement to Mendom. He learned the Bazghughs slaying in order to protect his Imoto Nezuko, and they wholesome 24/7, or like 10 minutes wholesome cause she sleeps a lot instead of eating. Like fasting, right? Let me be honest, I like the first half more than the second half of the season. Tanjiro's resolve and training swallowed me for a moment. I felt the sense of accomplishment he felt when he cut the boulder, and I felt Yokata and Nezuko woke up for the first time in 2 years. And bruh, his trainer is a Tengus. Marketing department abounded Tengus. Orokodaki is fucked up in his own way though, but he's a nice dude. So Tanjiro had a small dark swordsman arc which had sprinkles of wholesomeness which would negate what I just said, but never mind. And by sheer coincidence he meets his target, the villain of the story, Regal of the story. Or to have a more accurate description, Tanjiro meets the Diavolo Orochimaru vampire whose blood is much more than plasma with balls. Kibutsuji Muzen. He's Diavolo because his identity is top secret, he's Orochimaru just because, and he's a vampire because he can turn other people to loyal Bazghughs. In fact, Kibutsuji Muzan is the first Bazghugh. The encounter between Tanjiro and Muzan was as awkward as this clip.
Got him! Yes! Oh, yes. That was awful. It turned into a high five and it just fell apart.
But that meeting helped the story to progress and gave everyone on the spectrum a reason to react. Muzan changes his identity and starts a Bazghugh rank reformation and marks Tanjiro as the most valuable trophy Bazghughs could ever dream of hunting. And the demon Tamayo befriends Tanjiro and gives him a line of hope to follow, and that contributes to the Demon Slayer organization acceptance of Nezuko. Pick of the devil. The head of this organization sends landmine vibes. Just saying. But even without considering that, the high-level 9 Hashira call him daddy. They don't talk back to him, and he lacks a crack in his face to become a flayed ass. The 9 Hashira are interested in themselves, but little I know about them. I know that Tomioka is probably a disciple of Orokodaki since he uses water breathing and was the one to introduce Tanjiro. Shinobu Kocho has a dream and she's betting on Tanjiro. And Shinazugawa deserves the headbutt. Now the second part of the anime introduced characters and kinda made them nakama to Tanjiro. In one hand, Zenitsu made me despise my existence, and for that I skipped whenever he's on screen. Of course I scanned what I'm skipping so I saw the important stuff, but just like anyone who respects himself, I just pretended this character isn't a part of the story. In the other hand, Inosuke was my cup of tea. Now if Tanjiro jumped from the womb to Mandom, Inosuke jumped from the womb to meeting Tanjiro. Cause whenever something happened we can see that it's the first time he's ever doing it, like a fucking conversation, affection, food, clothes. It's like he's been cut from a tree. We learn later in the story which tree he's been cut from. Tom and Jerry wink. The spider Bazghugh and his phony family were a nice stimulation to Tanjiro cause they made him train, and was a nice stimulation to the story cause they triggered a flashback that introduced the breathing which no one apart from Tanjiro seems to know about, except of a smirky smile from the daddy Ubuyashiki. Hopefully that flashback isn't a window to the child of the prophecy he kinda is. With that being said, I appreciate the swords lore, the breathing lore, the demon blood technique lore, and the setting of Taisho era Japan is nice. Next is Mugen train mission. The Bazghugh of this mission is quite rich in Muzan blood and can make people go into sleep and dream of their paradise. I once dreamt of an orangutan that can talk and I told him, wow, you can talk. That demon blood technique didn't work on Tanjiro cause he simply has the resolve, no running away, if my neck is the answer then my neck is the answer. With zero hesitation, he kept decapitating himself over and over and almost caught by a trap and ended his life in the real thing. The Sangin dude is just another Lemillion, and his existence is appreciated until it just stops. He works with Tanjiro, Pig and Fuck to decapitate the hyper-trained Bazghughs, and out of nowhere Upper Moon 3 spawns on the battlefield. He is a power-hungry martial artist Bazghghs with an explosive personality that headlines the hype train. Pun intended. Rengoku fights him and it was close. It almost ended with the head in a bag, but it didn't. Both parts claimed victory. Upper Moon 3 claimed his victory considering Rengoku's death, while the Demon Slayers consider it a victory since only one of 150 died. This sparked a grudge rivalry between Tanjiro and Number 3 after Tanjiro called him a pussy and gifted him a sword while he's running away from the sun. And just like that, my man Tanjiro puts 2 new knots in his pocket. He used fire breathing a second time as a finisher, and he learned to target wounds with breathing to help him heal himself. That's my favorite side of Tanjiro, always grinding his table of progress. And I quote, "Whoever strives finds, and whoever walks the path arrives." Tanjiro meets Sangin's father and brother to honor the dead Hashira's wish and learn about the sun breathing since he's there. It appears that the sun breathing or fire breathing is the original breathing and every other breathing is derived from it. Tanjiro's earring and headscarf seems to indicate that he is the successor of such breathing, and that makes sense when taken in the context of the father and ancestor flashback that are sprinkled around. His next mission takes place in the Love District, accompanied by Inosuke, the yellow kid who is way easier to swallow when he sleeps through an entire arc, and the Sound Hashira Tinginnuzi. They fight against Upper Moon 6, and oh boy, the fight is one of the best anime fights I have ever witnessed in my life. It took multiple episodes, but every second was worth it. Characters exchange target fittingly, healing, stamina and power-ups are handled smoothly, and death twists are convincing. Tanjiro progressed by mixing fire breathing and water breathing since his body could not handle the sun breathing alone, and according to him, the smoothness of water breathing minimizes the toll fire breathing has on his body. And Nezuko shows some amazing feats fighting toe-to-toe with Bazghughs girl number 6. Her Scarlet Fire technique that burns only demons is a source of curiosity for me. Is it because she also inherited the fire breathing and that manifested as a blood demon technique art since she is a demon, or is it just a coincidence? One more question in my mind is, can she use her Scarlet Fire to heal Ubuyashiki, who shared with us that Muzan is a family member of his? Which makes sense and explains the landmine vibes I got from it. That Scarlet Fire healed the Demon Slayers who got corrupted by Bazghughs number 6's blood poison, and the body of their daddy seems to be undergoing something of a similar caliber.
You were wrong.
Tinginnuzi retires after the battle since his hand is no more. I kinda wanted him to say nin since he was a ninja, but not all people got what they want. What comes next is manga territory, so spoiler alert. Because Tanjiro lost his sword and his swordsmith isn't making him a new one, he visits the swordsmith village. There he meets a kid that shows him a training Mokujin that was created to mimic Yorichi, who happened to be an ancestor of Tanjiro. After defeating the Mokujin, the sword of that ancestor is handed to Hotaro for restoration, and just like Detective Conan can't stop encountering crime, Bazghughs Slayer Tanjiro keeps encountering Upper Moon Bazghughs. By sheer coincidence, who would have thought? 2 Upper Moon demons try to destroy the swordsmith village while 2 Hashiras and Tanjiro are there. Upper Moon 5 fights Mist Hashira Muichiro. Just like the story of the rabbit and the tortoise, the Bazghughs has an art obsession and got irritated by Hotaro's focus and devotion to his craft, which made Upper Moon 5 waste time, which came to bite him in the ass. Muichiro had amnesia, but because he met Tanjiro, he got it back since Tanjiro reminded him of his father, who said similar words and had similar eyes. Of course, Tanjiro reminds people of their loved ones every day in every flashback, and in a flashback we see that he is an heir to the first ever breathing technique, which happened to be the sun breathing Tanjiro uses. Yet, when he awakened his power and had the flame pattern appear on his face, he kept using the mist breathing and won eventually. Tanjiro mixed water breathing before against Upper Moon 6 and still had the fire pattern, so Muichiro's situation isn't that surprising. Tanjiro and the others versus Upper Moon 4. In the first part of the fight, Tanjiro applies what he learned from the fight against Upper Moon 6 and did not drop his guard whenever Bazghughs' head fell off. This time he uses his fire breathing using his black sword, which was turned red by Nezuko's flaming blood as an imitation of his ancestor's sword. That works a bit, then the imitation of a great sword proves to be just an imitation, and his ability to use the sun breathing decreases drastically, which makes the fight even harder. Thankfully, the love Hashira Mitsuri comes to aid and positions herself in a stalling position for the rest to go deliver the fatal blow to the real body of Upper Moon 5, who's a scum by the way, and Tanjiro uses the sword of his ancestor who almost finished Muzan in the past and decapitates Upper Moon 4 right before the first layer of dawn starts shining. Tanjiro up till now used water breathing, sun breathing, but now he apparently used lightning breathing to launch himself for the final blow, which makes me think, since fire breathing is the original breathing, does that mean that Tanjiro has the potential to use all breathing techniques if trained enough? Nezuko meanwhile defeats the sun. I speculate that it has to do with her being from the bloodline of sun breathers, but who knows?
You were wrong.
Defeating the sun triggers a wedding at Muzan's, and by wedding I mean an overwhelming joy since he can defeat the sun himself. In a flashback we see how Muzan came to be, and it was by the hand of a nice doctor. The thing was a bit wholesome until Muzan took a shit on the dinner by killing that doctor and getting extremely anal about not being able to walk in the sun. So he made an army of Bazghughs to help him find the blue flower that works like redstone of Asia, and simultaneously waiting for a mutant that can beat the sun, who happened to be Nezuko. Now, Nezuko is the main target of the demons, and the author is promising intense continuation. Another training arc takes place, but this time it's not Tanjiro and his two buds. Instead, every member of the Demon Slayer organization is on board. Hashira training meant they trained each other and trained the riffraffs. In the middle of that, Tomioka Gyu wasn't on board because he hated the fact that the Boulder Kid died protecting him. He never accepted himself until, of course, Tanjiro said something on point and the funeral turned into a wedding, and by that I mean Tomioka drama no more. Now, previously I mentioned that the Demon Slayer daddy sent sleeping on a landmine vibes, and that landmine exploded when Muzan himself visited the Ubuyashiki estate to kill the leader. Bro, everyone worshipped that dude, but in reality, his mouth stinks. He badmouthed Muzan badly, really bad. And I quote, "So better prepare for the storm, maggot. The storm that wipes out the pathetic little thing you call your life. Not only am I extremely trained in unarmed combat, but I have access to the entire arsenal of the Nichiren swordsmiths, and I will use them to their full extent to wipe your ass, miserable ass, off the face of the continent, you little shit. If only you could have known what unholy retribution your little clever moment was about to bring upon you, maybe you would have held your fucking tongue. But you couldn't. You didn't, and now you're paying the fucking price, you goddamn idiot. I will shit fury all over you and you will drown in it." Shots fired, man. Then he explodes with his wife and two daughters like the cultist he is. It was a trap all along. Mom man has a curse that works like the Higashikata curse, but actually worse. Ubuyashiki family are cursed and all of their lineage die young as a punishment for Muzan's clan. The Higashikata curse already made it clear for me and established a headcanon that suggests that from calamity hope is born. And that is manifested in the Ubuyashiki as a strong hinge that proved its accuracy in predicting atrocities. And Ubuyashiki used that hinge to hold down Muzan with the explosion I told you about earlier. The alert starts and Tamayo do the thing and sticks to him with a drug that would turn him back to human, while the entirety of the Demon Slayer corporation surrounds him simultaneously, with some closer to him than some. And of course Tanjiro was the closest, and boom, the shamisen demon sucks everyone there into traditional Japanese door labyrinth, which is full of bad Bazghughs, and here the war that everyone trained for starts. The matchups are ridiculously personal. Zenitsu fights his former senior in Thunder Breathing, who became Upper Moon 6, and Zenitsu wins, and I don't like Zenitsu. Shinobu Kocho fights Upper Moon 2, who killed her sister. His mind have been fucked up by cultists since a young age, and add to it Muzan's blood and you've got your stinky poo-poo. And as it was, Shinobu Kocho sacrifices herself as a part of a previously well thought plan. He basically consumes 47 kilograms of Bazghugh poison, then goes ahead to fight the flower breathing girl who who's surprisingly able to hold their ground fueled by vengeance. Then Inosuke joins cause that girl is his friend and number 2 pulls out something from his ass. He revealed that he killed Inosuke's mom as she was protecting him. Looks like we found the one that cut Inosuke from a tree. I didn't buy it. Inosuke and Kanao held their ground until 47 kilograms of poison takes effect and number 2 ceases to exist. Number 3. Upper Moon 3 targets Tanjiro because he called him a pussy and they fight like beasts. Tomioka had to watch like a bitch for some time and even broke his sword. Meanwhile, Tanjiro pulls out a flashback of his dad decapitating a bear and masters a technique that he used before to locate Upper Moon 4 but was never explained. He starts seeing shit slow-mo and stuff turn invisible to reveal things in their true nature or form. That negated any intent or fighting spirit and allowed him to decapitate Upper Moon 3. He just keeps fighting and starts growing ahead, but since he considered himself a proud martial artist, he kind of died voluntarily. I liked his backstory and felt sorry for him, but like everything in this life, he died. Upper Moon 1 had subverted my expectation as I thought he was the sun-breathing user from the flashback, but I was wrong. It is the brother who uses the knockoff moon-breathing technique. He became a vampire to fill his hole, but even that was futile. His hole was not, His breath mixed with blood demon technique and meat sword is so pleasant to read. Muichiro sacrifices himself in an attempt to deliver a final fatal blow and makes his sword red for the first time. He loses some limbs then passes away. Shinazugawa was the biggest surprise as he exceeded my expectations. I mean, I figured that he is anal about his brother because he loves him, but I didn't see the resolve and the commitment coming. My man got cut and through sheer determination and muscle pressing he kept his guts inside of his belly and went on fighting Upper Moon 1 on equal footing for some time. His stamina kept him going until Gyome joined the fight. Then he rested for like 5 seconds. This one, Gyome is praised by everyone for an ally, but I didn't buy him that much. His performance isn't lacking, but he had Shang vibes. He carried the fight and made his weapon red too. Genya ate Upper Moon 1 then ate shit. He did some Hashirama trees shit then passed away. And the end of Upper Moon 1 was on the hand of the 3 Hashira who went Purusu Urutora, especially Shinazugawa. Cut back to Muzan who is finally fully back. He massacres the Bazghughs slayers around him, then the headliners catch up. All the Hashira are here after Snake and Love Hashira left Upper Moon 4 fight to pull a surprise attack with the help of Bazghugh ally Yushiro. Then the fight is back to normal land, but it's a city. While the organization cleared the civilians, the Hashira fought Claw and Fang against Muzan. What I liked about this fight is the non-stop top-notch action. Whenever someone takes a breath, there is always someone to carry the fight. I don't think there is a point where Muzan talks without being in a constant engagement with the Hashira coming at him with more than all of his might. Some of them, including Tanjiro, got infected with Muzan's blood, and that Tamayo saves the day with medicine she made for Nezuko. Because of that medicine, the ones infected get some stamina back and kept on engaging, and Tanjiro does the Okuyasu thing where he slept mid-battle and figured something important in a dream. The first user of breath was born different. He could see the invisible world from day one. That shit made him not able to relate to anyone. So he never bothered to talk until he was old enough to whoop his ass by his own. One day, he just kissed his home goodbye and went on an adventure where he learned about demons and the demon slayers. Then he taught them the breathing techniques, except everyone was inferior. No one after him could ever approach his level. And I quote by Muzan, "That man is the real monster. He is built different." That's not a quote, that's me. In his first meeting with Muzan, he cuts the shit out of him. Muzan saw death with his eyes that no worm will ever eat, but he manages to save his head by splitting apart and running away like a wet chicken. Moral of the story, be careful, Muzan can explode, and the 13th form of the sun breathing is doing the 12 forms non-stop cool man. This was foreshadowed with his father dancing from dusk till dawn without being tired. And since Muzan can only be defeated by the sun and the plan is to keep stalling him until morning, it is only logical for the 13th form of the sun breathing to be used to keep Muzan engaging until dawn. Tanjiro gets in the zone and delivers some top-notch performance. Whenever he slips, a Hashira pushed through and gives him a window to resume. The one that surprised me the most was the snake Hashira, who can keep up with Muzan while blind and directed by his pet snake, who can also keep up with Muzan's attacks and speed. Sometime late in this fight, Muzan figures out that he has 4 drugs circulating in him. One to turn him human, which failed, one that ages him ridiculously, which works, one that prevents him from doing the splitting apart trick he did when ran from Yorichi, and one I don't remember but might be poison. Tanjiro keeps performing against the cornered and desperate Muzan until dawn, where he meets his end. In a last effort, Muzan turns Tanjiro into Bazghughs, even though he should have been immune by now. Then his friends turn him back to human, and human Tanjiro meets human Nezuko, and everybody lived in flower and pussy. Except Gyome, Muichiro, Mitsuri, and Igoro. This one died. Peace and be wait. I give it like a 6 out of 10. Peace and be wise, huh?